G'day superstars, g'day legends, Peps here, and today I have for you the 2023 Collingwood Magpies season preview. Now, once again, I've reached out to the masses and I've analysed everything and I thought, who am I going to get to come back and talk about the second greatest football club in the AFL? And there was only two gentlemen that I could get to. It was Sly, it was Spook, and from the Collingwood Rant. It's great to have them back for the third year. Gentlemen, what's going to happen with the Pies in 2023?
Yeah, we're going to crash and burn.
No,
that's
the thing I love about the two of you. Every other Collingwood supporter's going to go, no, we're going one better. You guys, crash and burn. Just genuine honesty.
Well, I expect them to kick 100 this year. So, first
of all, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming again. Like I said, the third year, it's been awesome that the previous years to have a chat to you. But that is an interesting response that you're going to crash and burn. So I'm handing it over to you. Tell us, the Lace-Out family and all the Collingwood supporters, why your opinion is probably different to 95% of the other Collingwood supporters out there.
I'll jump in first because I made that a fallen gag. And obviously you think about this quite frequently about your footy club, about how you think they're going to go and their prospects and all that sort of thing. The one thing that I keep coming back to with us last year is we won about 8 or 412 games by a kick.
Yep.
It was an absolute freak of the season, and it was very hard. And as much as I think the king of the improvement for us was that sense of self-confidence and belief, to pull themselves across the line that many times. Like I said, it's a freak occurrence. I just don't know whether you're going to see that happen. Well, you won't see it happen again this year, but I think things will be a little bit different around that and how that means in terms of translating into wins. That's the bit I'm not sure of. I still think we're probably just sneaking to the 8. That's probably where I see us, but it's a mystery where I think we can go this year, mate.
That's mind-blowing. Like I said, everyone that I've spoken to, regardless whether they're Collingwood supporters, whether they're just general football supporters, full stop, have ranked you guys to be top 4. Even premiership based on what they saw last year.
What I was about to give you is a brand of optimism.
How old are you? I mean, going back, what's your vintage?
Hey, I'm 47. I've seen the good times and I've seen the very, very bad times, and I've seen a lot of footy over my life. Yeah.
Well, if you've got from Melbourne, it's mostly bad time. But for me, I think we'll make the finals, but the reality is there's just not enough class on that side. You look at Richmond went out and got Tom Lynch a few years ago. Sydney got Buddy Franklin, like that's equal to flag. We went out and got Dan McStay. He's not going to change size that much. You don't have enough genuine class coming into the side. I mean, look at Melbourne's recruiting when they got May and Lever. They're 2 top 10 prospects, and that you've built your defence on those guys. So you look at our trading, I mean, there's a couple of guys that might be good money ball players, but I'm pretty struggling. So we're very much created a typical Collingwood side, are very scrappy, competitive battlers with a good top end of talent, and a lot of patchwork fixes all over the ground. Still don't have a genuine key forward. You're hoping that a couple of guys who are recruited to play defence will stand up in Brampton and Charlie Dean. And you're hoping that, Howe and that will go another year. So, I think we'll be up there. But I think, what happened in the finals last year is when push came to shove in both those games that we lost, we just didn't have star power to win those games. We didn't have someone to stand up and take command and go, you know what, I'm going to win it for us, because it's the typical scrappy side. That's what we're missing. We're missing genuine stars.
From a neutral perspective, I thought the way that you handled yourselves in both. Look, let's be honest. What'd you lose? You lost the Geelong game by, it was only a couple of points, and you lost the prelim by a point.
Yeah, I think
that prelim, Sydney put the cue in the rack, and they basically were just playing to survive. You lost by a point
because we let them get nearly 6 goals up.
Yep.
And we don't play that little ground particularly well either, but that's another issue. But I think the end result of that one masks some of the issues that we have as a side. And like you get a lot of people who will still continuously say and search me that we would have given Geelong a better run in the grand final than in the Sydney. I don't see it as clean as that. I think certainly on the day Geelong were just an absolute monster of a side. I don't think anyone would have.
No one would have even got close. You might have got maybe 2.5 quarters in.
Yeah, and so nothing was that final saying, "Well, we lost that by a kick." I don't think it was translated into the same outcome on the grand final.
I mean, there you go. Geelong only got Cameron. They tried a few of the sort of money ball fixes with Mitch Clark, years ago and those sort of guys. You look at Geelong, they've always been in the final for about the last 400 years. Since their previous flag in 2011, they went and popped up with some just money ball players, and they were just finishing thereabouts. The last few years, they went out and got some really good players. They got Dangerfield a few years ago, but then they got Cameron. Tom Stewart really stepped up, and suddenly they're a powerhouse. So the reality is, if you don't have the personnel, you can get there. You're very unlikely to win it. With the Collingwood, you definitely won't. 27 losses. It's a fair body of evidence. So the one thing that annoys me with our performance last year, not our performance actually, but one thing that annoys me with our supporters is we got going to kick. Still lost. That's all it comes down to. You win or you lost. You lose. We lost. So whether we lost by 1 point, 100 points, at the end, the result's the same. You lost. And that's the way we should be looking at it. We need to improve. I really like the coaching staff. Nick Dacos will probably win the Brownlow this year. You get some guys like the Gully who hopefully having an uninterrupted year. Get a few guys in like Darcy Moore there. They're genuinely classy players. But then you have a lot of journeymen. And I think Nick Dacos is a really interesting case in point because you look at last year, you actually inject this guy who's obviously very, very talented, and look at the dividend. That's what happens when you inject class. When you inject average players, you get an average turnout. Or you get a turnout where they play above themselves for a little while. When push comes to shove, they're just not up. They're not good enough. And in every great team, there are players who can win the game when it matters.
Yeah.
And in Collingwood, there's just not enough of those guys, and the way they've set it up, I don't blame the current coaching staff, I blame the previous coaching staff. They've set up very defensively. I always go on the rant about Darcy Moore should be forward, shouldn't be back, because he's a genuine talent who could scare opposition. Instead, you've turned him into a fullback. It's I'm sure there's coaches watching Moore up there and just going, who gives a shit with him down there? Well, it'll take a few intercepting marks, but you've got someone like Carlton where you've got two key forwards. Why not just lead him away? The other one just stand there and take mark after mark. So I think they need to set up more attackingly. I think they need to revamp the way they're structured, but I don't think they'll do it just because they have a genuine lack of key positioners and they have a genuine lack of class, and they're just constantly trying to mask gaps in that side. And this is why I asked your age, because we watched all this with Tom Hafey back in the 70s and 80s, and it is a typical Collingwood template. Crappy competitive teams get there, and when push comes to shove, they just don't have the star power to win. The only two times they've done it is in 90 and in 2010. And, they actually got talented teams. That 90 side's really underrated. That 2010 list is the best list I've seen at Collingwood in all my time supporting him. And then since that, we've sort of gone backwards. And it's we'll get this American guy who's didn't know what football was 7 years ago. He'll be out for forward. And we look at this guy as a defender. We'll play him as a centre-half forward. And they're doing admirably for what they can do. But, you play patchwork players and they're going to, fortunately, sometimes they're just going to be exploited.
Yep.
28 grand finals, great evidence of that. You had Howe at full back. No, sorry, Dolce at full back. Langdon at centre-half back. So you had two undersized guys, and you had Mychek and Fox as your two key forward.
I think Mychek has overproduced for the last 5 seasons.
We're huge fans of Mychek, but
I love him. In the couple, it was about 2 years ago, he was a bit, is he going to go? Is he going to stay a little bit? I was just like, get him, Melbourne, get onto him, because he was almost like Jack Gunston like. You would guarantee to get 2 to 3 out of him every week. And I just love the way he plays. I went to both games that you beat us by. last year. And beautiful. The Queen's birthday game, just great football, great attacking football. But you're right, though. You look at who they recruited. They picked up three main ones. They picked up Bobby Hill.
Bobby Hill, I think he's got a lot of potential upside, and he's a small forward. He'll put pressure on young small forwards. And in terms of what they pick up, I actually don't care about who you pick up as long as what are you giving away? Someone like Frampton, who's effectively been taken 660 whatever.
Yep.
Don't care. At that end of the draft, you're speculating anyway. So you might as well speculate on.
Exactly right. At that, it's not a big thing. But then you go and recruit a Tom Mitchell at pretty much you'll be 30 by the time halfway through the season, and you also then pick up Dan McStay, who really hasn't set the world alight at Brisbane.
No.
And he's going to be pushing 28 by the middle of the season as well too. So you've got two at the older end.
Yeah.
And the list doesn't change it much. And then you decide that your ruckman, I know you had to free up some salary cap space, etc., but you've basically moved on a ruckman, and now you've put your ruck stocks into Cox and Cameron. And if one of those two goes down, I don't see what the backup is. You've got probably your best forward is, and if I'm wrong, let me know, outside of my check, probably Jamie Elliott, he's 30, he'll be 31, which is, you look at him and you think he's only about 22. But his body hasn't been the most reliable as well too. So
I mean, and that's just, again, with lack of class. I mean, you can play the goalie up forward, but then you're going to lose a lot out of midfield because that midfield lacks, class. So that's when you're constantly trying to shuffle players to, address issues in the team. And they're very much like a typical Collingwood team. The sum of the parts is greater than the individual. But if it gets shut down, then we saw it this year a couple of times when they lost. Even those games that Spook mentioned where we won, quarters in those games, we just looked lost. We looked like we're absolutely out of it. And you didn't sort of have the guys to just keep us going, in general cruise mode.
Yep.
Just sort of comfortably keep the margin at 3-4 goals. We were just constantly struggling to get back in the game. And people need to remember, a number of those games were against good teams. Adelaide, North, Hawthorn, Hawthorn, they're all bottom teams, and we struggled against them.
And you had Fly into the season conceding that one of our major issues is our ability to score. I think we were averaging probably about 70, 80 points per game. We didn't blow anyone away. We eked out a lot of those close wins, but I think in a lot of those cases it was just your grit and determination that dragged us over the line, which is an admirable quality. I'm glad to see Collingwood have that, but same time you want your sides to be capable of kicking big scores.
I think the other concern is,
and I don't think bringing the McStay necessarily, that's not going to translate into that.
I think last year was a little bit of a transitional year. Melbourne struggled. Geelong had the great year. Sydney were second best team. I don't think that was a great team last year. We were third last year. Fremantle as well. All the other teams sort of have really rocky years where they look good in patches, but they didn't look consistently. And it's one of those years where I can see this year potentially a couple of sides beneath us could really jump up. Melbourne's one of them. I always say Carlton, but I'm doubting now. A few of the sides could really just leapfrog them because we got young talent who could go to the next level. And at Collingwood, I think, who's the young talent coming up? What's Nick Dacos? And then, guys like Guinness and McCreary, I think, well, you're going to improve, but how much are you going to improve from your baseline? I don't know. It's going to be huge. And this, I always believe, we have the year where you go from contenders to genuine contenders. You need improvement from two sources that you didn't expect.
Yeah.
Not guys taken out of, number one top 5 picks, you think, okay, they'll get better. You need players to come out of sort of left field who are really going to inject some class and talent and potential into the squad. I don't know where that's going to come from at the moment. And then on the flip side, you have a few guys on the wrong side of 30 who just fall away suddenly.
Yeah, you look at us, you'd have to say that Pendlebury's still our best player at the age of 92. Who's coming to usurp his position?
Well, you've got it at probably the both ends of the scale. You've got Pendlebury at 35, and then you got Nick Dacos all the way at 18, 19, and then where's it sort of sit in the middle? His brother, I think, came on leaps and bounds. I actually watched him once again. I thought he's improved last year as well too. But you look at here's the thing that sort of stands out to me is it's not the wins and losses. It's the percentage, which is the scary thing. And it slots beautifully into what you mentioned a moment ago regarding your points. Your percentage last year was 104.31, right? The next closest to that was 4% better, which was the Bulldogs. And then the next closest to that was 117. So what I'm saying is that the two of you the Bulldogs just scraped in to make finals.
Yeah.
You just scraped in because there was games that you won either after the siren or you just got across the line. You know, round 23 was a perfect example against Carlton. We know what happened on Anzac Day, etc. There was two other teams outside, which were the Blues and the Power, who had percentages a lot better than yours. And you had even the Suns with 2% less than you.
Yeah, I mean,
it just goes to show that, yes, you get the wins, but they weren't convincing score-like wins. And you only had to have two or three of those results occur and you drop out of the top four, and you have three of those or four of those results go the other way and you don't even make finals. So you are right. It is that balancing. But from what you're telling me and you're telling the listeners is that you don't think that trajectory is going to go up. It's actually...
it'll go up. How much it's going to go up? Like I said, I mean, I think the big concern is it's like the Bulldogs to go back about 20 years where they're constantly making prelims.
Yep.
20 years ago. Yeah, but they looked always like preliminary finals. They never actually looked like they were going to beat one of the grand finals.
No, they never looked like they were going to be a grand final team. They did. They looked prelim. North Melbourne were the same a number of years ago as well too, and they did the same sort of thing. They just didn't get any further. And you probably could even throw Port Adelaide and St Kilda in for their years as well. They didn't seem grand final teams outside. Sorry, St Kilda did make those three, but they'd always outside of that realm just didn't push to that next level.
And that's what I feel like at the moment with the makeup of the side. I think that's where our standard is about prelim, and you're going to need to be a little bit lucky. In that last game against Carlton too, winning that game pushed us into the top four. So we're actually went into the top four in the last round. So, you finish in the bottom half of the eight, that's another equation altogether. So, I look at the makeup of the league and I think that sides who I think are more improvement in us because they got better talent or better list they've put together. I mean, even at Carlton, they've just been knocking up talent after talent for years. Now, whether they put it together in the field, I don't know. I mean, Essendon, we laugh at them for being inept. I think it's pretty funny, but all they've been doing that, they've just been getting top 10 picks. So they've been putting together some real talent. Meanwhile, we're still looking for lateral solutions to address poor recruiting during the Buckley years and to make up for really bad selections like with Stevenson. Pick six, you've lost a pick six out of the side. Trelaw was 2 pick sevens. That's 2 pick sevens, technically gone out of that list. Grundy is a pick, so it just sort of goes on. There's a hole in that list because of poor recruiting in about 2012 onwards. And because of that, they've always, over the last 5 years, they've spent trying to find lateral solutions, trying to find these left field solutions of like, guys, take a punt on this guy and hopefully he'll really explode. And, but it's unrealistic. I mean, how often is that going to happen? So that's a concern for me. Again, I could be totally wrong now when it comes to Collingwood. I mean, it's Collingwood. We believe this. I've followed Collingwood for 50 years. Since 2010, the Collingwood squad we put together are just their template. Even the AFLW side have put together a template. Competitive, no genuine forwards. They'll try, they'll punch above their weight. But when it comes to that one really important match, which we've called the grand final, they fall just short. And then all our supporters leaving droves going, it was a valiant effort. And they all pat themselves on the back for being, what a great club we are. And it's like, we didn't win. And we might have won if you put a better list on the park. And you go to 2010, they had a really good spine, which is basically both Brown Red, who were all top 10 picks. And Dawes in that year was worth like about a top 20. And they had a really good midfield. Pendles, Daisy, Luke Ball, they were all top 5 picks. Dane Swan, retrospectively, would have been a top 10 pick. So, Jolly was a pick 14. So they got a lot of talent into that side. You don't have that at the moment.
I thought you looked really quick. I thought you looked really quick. But I don't know whether that was other teams just looking slower. It might have been just the way that you played, like the way that you'd go through the middle where, the Buckley years were always around the boundary, always around the boundary. You started going through the middle and, speed kills. You get speed on the ball. Beautiful. Absolutely.
Ever reducing circles that just inevitably ended up in the turnover. But there's, in comparison on the fly, we looked at far faster and a lot more attacking side. But we still struggled when we got down the point here. That's still, I'm going to think we'll probably play along that way this year. I think we'll still struggle with some of the scoring stuff. And it's like what you were saying before. You look at Carlton, with their spine, Furno and McKay. They're going to be the twin towers of unstoppable force if they stay in the park and the midfield can deliver to them. And that's sometimes the equation that you need, and that's something that we won't have this year. So it's still that great unknown about how this is going to pan out. I still think that Fly did an incredible job last year as coach. And I think a lot of the way that we won was above the shoulders. It'll be interesting to see whether
Carlton's a really good example. Carlton's in that squad with Fernando McKay, you got Wettering, you got Walsh, Peps, Sard. You got all these, top 10 picks. And at one stage, they were 8-2, and they ended up with they ended up with Collingwood medalists, and the runner-up was one of their players.
Two Colemans for the last 2 years, which I don't think has happened for quite a long time for two Colemans in 2 consecutive years from the same club. Hasn't been around for a long time.
Peps to mine's like the best dual midfielder because you just win the ball time and time again. They could have beaten us by 10 goals, but it's just, from what I can see from Wallis, he's exactly like Buckley. It's like go in the hard ball and then I have no strategy after that. Just kick it that way, So they should have dropped it into the final. So I think they're ineptitude more than anything lost the game against us. I'm not being ineptitude, just say they're incompetent because they lost that. It was very much like Buckley. Like I bet it topside or one of the topside players, they lose to Adelaide. Like what exactly is going on here?
You almost had the North. That game, I will say, was one of the funniest games being a neutral supporter. It's actually one of the funniest games I've ever watched neutral supporters at a local football game. Ignore the game that was on the ground and everybody had their KO subscription to see if North would get across the line against Collingwood on that day, and then to see them just trip over at the end was shattering because there was quite a number of Collingwood supporters that day, and were they copping it left, right and centre because North, we know, there was putrid. And then, when you lift the barrel up, there's the stuff that's underneath the barrel growing that's just don't want to go near. That's what North were last year. That's how bad they were. And to almost pinch to get.
You look at us when we lost to this guys against the under-12 side.
Funny, I did speak to Wazza King from Eagle Nation about that. He goes, it was like a waffle team. A waffle team beat Collingwood that day. It'll never happen again. But it was just...
From memory, the goalie was suspended because he tackled Dangerfield, and you can't do that because he just flopped if you grab him. And Elliott was out. And it's like 2 players from Collingwood side were taken out, and outside just massively came down because they're relying on so few to carry the structure of that side. I mean, I think this year is they've had a year under flying, whereas last year still felt like the first half of the year some of them were still married to the Buckley game plan. And the Buckley game plan, I mean, you saw it, the sport defensive they launched in the Buckley game plan, which still haven't come to fruition to this day. They were just kicking around, showing advertising on the fences, going back the other side. And I know a lot of players probably just felt like that was ingrained in them so much it was hard to totally shake it loose. So with 1 year under development fly, that's going to be an advantage. But, usually like when you look at a side, you go, okay, where's the improvement come from? It'll be a bit of natural improvement per side. You get that recruit or two. I mean, you got Grundy, so that'll all give you, what's that word for fake hope? Period? Whatever. I think it's period. Is there anything else? Anyway.
Hold on. So I will get on to that Grundy thing in a moment because you did bring it up. But do you think moving him on was the right decision? Or where do you guys sit on that? And regardless, everybody knows I'm a Melbourne guy. But just pushing that aside, knowing that you've got the big American who when he's on, hey, fantastic. I've seen him do it twice. Once against Melbourne last year. The other one was against Richmond in a prelim. Outside of that, I haven't really seen him do it again. And you got Cameron. So I know that he signed up his contract for quite a long time. For him to move on, I know he's had his injuries, etc. But was it a good move for the club to move him on? Was it?
No, it wasn't a good move. I mean, they should have moved him on 2 years ago. Yeah. When he won it 7 years, they should have said, okay, we'll chop you around.
Yep.
And I should have traded him out from a position of strength. And it's not retrospect because I have to say this on the rant, so people can go look it up. I was saying it back then also. Once you won 7 years, should have been, we're not doing it. You can sign for 5 or we'll move you on. They traded from a position of weakness, so like they got 27 or what it was. But I think it's a win-win scenario because Melbourne gets a ruck, the partner to replace Luke Jackson and the partner Max Gawn. And as a ruckman, Brody Grundy will finally hit a Collingwood midfielder on the chest with the cut. So that'll finally happen and it'll be good to see for a change. Look, Grundy is...
Put him in the middle. He's going to play off the wing. Actually, I don't know where they're going to put him, to be honest. I've got no idea where they're going to put him. I just think that's going to be a great combo. I don't know how it's going to work, but...
Grundy's an awesome rucker over. Statistically, he'll get 1,000 taps, but when you taps to advantage, the proportion is really low. The ratio is really low.
Yeah.
I remember looking at it years ago. There were players like Pickernet, Carlton, who had like 20, 30 less taps than him for the same amount of game, and yet were only like 1 or 2 taps to advantage less than him. So his ratio of tap to advantage isn't great. He often taps it to his feet. I mean, Gawn, I think, is the best ruckman about the last 20 years, so he might teach him a thing or two. Like he might say, Brody, half of the guys wearing the same jumpy as you. Try that.
Red and blue ones, not the other team.
Yeah.
Make it harder for everyone. Exactly right.
Like, Grundy, in the grand final 28, he got 60 taps, I think it was, and we lost. In the prelim against GW this following year, we did 9 taps and still lost.
I'm quite right. So, I mean, throughout that period, he should have been given his first use of the ball. But it just didn't click. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think we were ever massive fans of his. Certainly, I think if we go back over our Rant episodes, he copped his fair old whack.
Everybody.
It's not a great overhead mark also. I mean, the thing about like genuine ruckman like Gawn, they'll take marks forward and back, and that's when they're scary because, and particularly when they drop into defence and they take that mark to shore up the defence and that. Grundy's never genuinely been a great mark. He's one of his strengths probably tapping it to himself and then running over the ruck. That's a ruck rag. He's brilliant. But his size, I don't think he's a brilliant ruck. I think there's a lot better options, which is obviously what the club thought. Why they thought, well, we'll just go at Cameron and Cox. We're not actually losing too much out of the ruck. Losing a little bit of secondary stuff with him as a ruck rover. But it's like, with Prass always make is wicket keeper in cricket. They're still going to be able to keep wicket. They can bat, right? But your primary duty is to keep wicket.
That's your job, to put it down your on-ballers' throats and take marks.
Yeah. So I was actually curious how it goes. I mean, the other thing with Grundy that I feel about off the Melbourne, because now it's at Melbourne, so I don't care. But Grundy, as a ruckman, is very much like Matthew Cruiser and Josh Fraser, where very reliant on the athleticism.
Yep.
And once that athleticism falls away, it's like you have enough tools, on your belt to compensate, and I'm not sure they do. While that athleticism is there, though, they're great. I mean, Fraser gets unfairly maligned. His early years at Collingwood, he's actually really good.
Yeah, Josh Fraser was very, very good for a long time.
And then he had a couple of knees and stuff, and he really sort of came to that. And Cruiser was the same. Cruiser on his day was really, really good.
Yeah, they were just struck down with injury. Nick Nat's another one. Like, Nick Nat doesn't do much around the ground. He's the opposite, where his first ball use is probably the best in the league. But he's been struck down. Like, he's 30 plus this year, and he's only played 170 odd games. But you think he's been around for quite a long time, and his knees have caused him issues as well too. So if they can keep fit, it's going to be awesome for my club. And if it doesn't work out, well, then you've saved a bit of cash. So we'll see what happens. But there is a guy that I look at, and it blows my mind to think this guy came from Brisbane as a bit of a steak knives deal. And now he's won your BNF last year. Just awesome. Like, would he be your next captain, Mr. Crisp? Mr. Jack Crisp?
It'll be Darcy Law.
Yeah, I think Darcy. But he'll be in the leadership team for sure.
Yeah,
he'd go close. If it's done the way I believe it's done, and the players vote on it, still is that. he won't be far off.
Yep.
But I think Darcy will be the one.
I mean, Darcy from the moment he showed up sort of had leadership stamp on him. He's, speaks really well behind the scenes. But, I mean, he'd be my second choice for it. What?
Yeah.
My first would be Jack Ginnivan just to piss off the rest of the league.
I'll be honest. Jack Ginnivan is one of those players I can't stand. And the reason I can't stand him is because he's not at my club. Because, like I said, when you watch him live, that kid can play. He is good. And I think he put intention on himself at the start of the year, which probably got overblown a little bit. But if you just take the hype away and watch him play, brilliant young player. Love him.
About 38 goals.
Yeah.
I mean, second in I mean, the one thing for us, he can find it and he can kick it.
Yeah, the other thing this year, I think they've got to tell him, look, if you take a high tackle, you still got to get the ball out. So,
yep.
Get the ball out at all costs, keep the ball moving, so that way it doesn't look exactly like you're playing for a free and ball play stop.
You know those free kicks that he was getting?
Yeah.
It reminds me of the man cat in cricket. Like, yeah, it's there, but you shouldn't do it because just the way it looks. Take that out of him. Take that out. Like, what, he kicked 38 last year from a small forward perspective? Absolutely stunning. There wouldn't be too many other small forwards that would have kicked more than 38 last year. And when I'm talking small forward, I'm not just talking like a Gunston or whatever who plays not in one of the big spots. Cozzy Pickett would have been one. He would have been the other. Charlie Cameron. Outside of those, I don't think there would have been many others that would have kicked close to that 40 mark. So he's a special one. He is a special one.
Oh, and he's still got plenty of upside too. I think
plenty of upside.
He's not kicking goals. He wasn't doing much else. I think that's probably an area of his game that will look to draw him into the play a lot more. He was pushed up the ground, I think, a fair bit in the second half of the season, just I think to try and get some touch or be pulled out of the spotlight for the clotheslining. But I think if he can develop that side of his game, he can be very, very, very good for us.
Well, him and McCreary, they each have to learn from each other. Because McCreary's defensive side is brilliant, but doesn't get enough. They can get the ball, but his defensive side just doesn't have enough to it. So if they can actually learn a little bit from one another, that'd be great. But like I said, if I don't care if players play for free. Bell's been doing it 150 years. We know.
Umpires won't know what to do with themselves this year.
Yeah, if they just keep the ball moving, so you can play for the free, just don't kill the play. If you don't get the free and you've killed the play, then the ball's just stopped. So just keep the ball moving. Take whatever dimes you want. Keep the ball moving. So if you don't get the free, get the ball hopefully in one of your teammates' hands.
So looking into the future, obviously you've had your drafts, etc. So far, what have you heard? Who's setting it, as we would say, who's setting it alight at the moment? Who's someone that, if the Collingwood supporters aren't looking at training and the reports as much as you guys are, what have you heard on the Twitterverse? What have you seen on the rumour file? What have you? Who's someone that, hey, you know what, the older brigade going all right, but someone that a name that nobody would know much about. That's
Don't really have an answer for, maybe a bit. I mean, the team are ripping up in the bracket competition when we take off.
Yep.
So you get both the old and new. I mean, the Oscar Allen, who they've drafted, is apparently beautiful ball user, which will, came to Collingwood.
Frampton's name, funnily enough, popped up a few times. And I know someone who knows him, and he comes highly rated. Why he's never clicked and made the most of his limited opportunities, that's a mystery. I guess we might find out this year. That's the reason why. But he's someone, as a key player, that would be hopeful that could deliver.
Well, he's been at Port Adelaide, and you know what Port Adelaide are like. They usually stick with, that midfield group who they've had, Oak, Wines, Gray.
He's been
very, very difficult to break into that. Now, he's probably gone the wrong year because Gray's left, Oak will be on his last legs, Wines, still going to be doing his thing. So this would have been his season, but he thought, you know what, I've given it my shot. I've been there for a while. If I'm not getting it here, I'll go somebody else. And if Collingwood have said, hey, listen, we'll play you, the decision's quite simple. It's a career, and players are changing clubs. Talking about changing clubs, and I'll get back to it, just pricked my mind. Ollie Henry? Ollie Henry.
Oh, you don't use the Steelers on your show, do you?
Nah, not really, but you weren't obviously not too happy with him pulling up stumps?
No. I think the reasoning given was pretty simply. Like, you're homesick when you're interstate. You can't be homesick when you're
45 minutes away.
Yeah, I think that really knocked the wind out of the sails for me with him. That, look, it's the players move. People change jobs in the real world. It's part and parcel. But when that's your reasoning, it just doesn't stick.
Oh, the kid's got obvious talent. Got a lot of talent. He ends up in Geelong, which I don't know. Did you say these things publicly? It was scuttlebutt. He might have been told by a certain club that, hey, you don't perform so well, and we'll pick you up in the draft if you slide. And he ends up at that same club. That's scuttlebutt. So, and now he's at that club. So, I don't know. Collingwood just seemed like a holiday for him for a couple of years, and he was always going to go there.
Yeah, it was just a real strange one because he sort of came out of nowhere and, like, where's this kid come from? And he had a good year. Like, he had 22 goals in 15 games last year. And then it was one of those ones that, hold on, he wants to move? Like, he's actually going all right. Why would you want to leave? It just did not make any sense whatsoever. But then when you hear homesick or whatever it is, look, that's their decision. I'm not going to sit around and talk about that crap. But it was a strange one considering it's like, hey, it's 45 minutes down the road. Like, it's not that bad. Just be honest and say, look, I don't want to play for Collingwood. I want to go to Geelong. You know what I mean? You want to just say it and then be okay, fair enough. You don't want to play there, you don't want to play there.
Then ultimately, his contract expired. He just priced himself out of a resigning for a guy who's like a second-year player. He's making demands that, like Collingwood was saying, we're not paying this. And Collingwood's not actually being unreasonable. You got to think at Collingwood, if you ask for a big contract, they generally will give it to you. So they've asked him otherwise there. So he's just done everything it seems, he needs to do to get back to Geelong, and play his brother. And
you seriously think after winning a flag this year, he's going to be starved of opportunity to get into that senior side? He's going to spend money.
They brought in, and that's the thing that you just go, hold on. So they lose Selwood. Okay. Yes, they are. They've got that core group who's sitting over 30, but they brought in Braun. They brought in Bowles. They got a pick 7. And you're sitting back going, hold on, they just brought in 4 first-rounders this year. How? What? Oh, and Henry, sorry, he was one of them. So they brought in 4 first-rounders this year to replace Selwood. There's only one spot, and they've got 4 to bring in. I don't know how they're going to do it. So good on them for doing it. But
Holmes was in the grand final side, wasn't he?
Nah, he got dropped.
So he had a hamstring or something, and so there's another one there that's sort of going to be vying for a spot. I saw an article, I didn't read it, but I saw an article about Geelong talking about playing him as a half-back, which I thought was interesting.
Well, that's where he's been trained. He's not the most physical bloke out there. I can't see him lasting 5 minutes there either.
So I was curious, when Nathan Buck was
Is he going to take Stewart? Is he going to take Tui's spot?
Needs about 12 injuries before he can get a look in.
No, exactly. So I don't know what's going to happen. But hey, listen, let's talk about your mob. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. So your average age is 6th, which some people thought that you're quite a young team, but I think it's what we said earlier. You've got that probably about 11 or 12 that are sitting over that 20.
You're going to 5 you're well into their 30s.
Now it's Cox and Al and Pendle,
side bottom.
Yeah.
And even guys like Crispin. Chris is 29 and Adams is 28, 29. So you got a number of guys there, right there. And then the problem obviously is once you get to that age, longevity becomes an issue. It doesn't take a lot to finish your career. So, Buckley's best example. When he played at Collingwood, he won the Crown on the 3. That was effectively his last full year as a mid. The next 2 years, he had injuries. He came back in 06 as a forward. And in 07, he pretty much missed the whole year. So at that age, the body can just go, look, I've had enough.
And if you have a look at those names as well, too, that are at that top bracket, they're walking starts. Pendlebury, Howe, Sidebottom, Cox, Elliott, Mychek, Mitchell, Hoskin Elliott, Taylor, Crispy's 29. You got McStay. You got Darcy, who's your number 1 ruckman, Darcy Moore, Jordan DeGoey, Braden Maynard, and then it stops. 26 is Billy Frampton. So out of all those names, you literally got what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 of your starting 23, 26 and above.
Yeah, I mean, you have guys like Oscar Nolan out will get replaced this year, like get supplanted by new options.
Yep.
It doesn't happen in the past 6 years, I guess. But yeah, I mean, you sort of look at like your side. You always look at your best 22 and you're going, okay, these guys are vulnerable this year, but looking at this side, okay, I can't imagine who's going to come in and push out some of them.
No, and that's...
I mean, Henry probably was the one who would have done it if anyone was going to do it.
Yeah, you want to see some of the younger talent knock at the door. I don't think we've had that consistency for a number of years. We went that whole Murray approach with all those second rounders that may or may do something. But other than that, this is really nothing of quality.
You're a victim of your own success. That's what it is that you've had all this, when I say sustained success, you've been up there for a while. And it's like, we're just going to keep playing them. We're going to keep playing them, and we don't regenerate it. When, unlike Hawthorn, you go, we'll just turn them over. We'll just turn them over. Mitchell, you don't have to be here anymore. Lewis, don't have to be here anymore. We'll just move you on if we have to try and get those games in.
Well, under Buckley, I'm not blaming Buckley, but our cultivation wasn't great. A lot of young guys really didn't come on. They were just sort of middling for quite a while. And probably the only one that really came on was Grundy, Maynard, and the only two. And the rest of it would come up and look okay and then go back down.
Yep.
So, again, I'm not blaming Buckley. It's just whatever the mechanism.
That development, sort of that 1 to 4 year development level just hasn't kicked on.
Whereas under Malthouse, they really sort of cultivated players really well. And when they brought guys in from other clubs like Pennant and Holland and Wakeland and all that, they just sort of went next level. So player development wasn't great. Again, not blaming Buckley, but the player development was great. And part of that, I think, was just, they had a lot of injuries, and they were playing with guys who were like 3rd, 4th round picks who just probably didn't have been at that level.
Yep.
So again, that's what that hole they're still trying to fix.
And it's that false economy again, because you have a look at your average games, it's 73, sitting 6th as well too. But once again, if you take that upper echelon out, you'd be probably one of the experience lists as well too.
Yeah.
So it's, it looks great on paper, but if you just sort of scrape away the top layer and just maybe get down a bit deeper, it's not as pretty as it looks. Outside of that,
circling back to where we started, where we surprised you with our outlook on that, and that's the reasons why. I think a lot of people really get caught up in the hype of the season and think, well, the natural progression now is, well, top fours and multi will be aiming for a flag this year. I just don't think it's that clean cut.
No, I'll not look like Luke. I mean, going from 206 to 210, you could see, you had the Pendlebury, Thomas, side bottom Deans, Brown, Reed, Cloak, Swan, all these sort of young players. So you looked at them and thought, look, these guys have talent. Give them games. They're going to develop and they're going to go next level. And you got guys there like Pendlebury. I mean, Brown Thomas not remembered highly enough because his last years were a sham under Carlton. But from 209 to 211, he was a champion. He was a really good player. Then did his ankle and came back down to the pack. Just sort of saying they had talent. You could see in that talent they weren't just players. They were like really good players. I mean, I want to say, like when you look at the draft, you get players who are like good top 5. You get players who are good players, but then you get players like the Tracker. You look at him, he's a freak. Cripps, you look at him, he's a freak. He's not just a player, but then you get sort of the other ones. Guys like Mark Murphy, they're really good players, but are they that freak? And it's like, no. So at Collingwood, you have sort of guys with that potential. I mean, Pendlebury is still playing 15 years on. So you saw the talent explosion potential in there, and that's what happened in 2010. They really all just went next level.
Yep.
Right now, you sort of look at it, besides Nick Bancroft, you go, who's going to be the super freak here? And it's like, I don't know. I think that there's actually someone there.
No, I mean, you look at the guy and you want him to be it, but every year you have in the same population. And he has moments of brilliance, and then he can vanish. Who's that? Yeah, the guy.
Oh.
You just don't get that.
It's 1 week and boiled lollies the next. You sit back and go, if he reminds me of Nick Kyrgios. Like if he just put his mind to it and took all the other distractions out and just focused solely on football, he could be top 5 player in the league.
He needs to be. He's not that sort of player that can do it all on his own and drag people along with him.
No.
Part of an ensemble. He'd be better at a good club. He'd be doing brilliant work. But for us, I mean, a few of the others, like around Mitchell, and if Nick makes it into the midfield this year, he'll be a better player because of the likes of there, not through any increase in his output. He'll just look better.
Because he's going to have other bodies taking a lot of that grunt work where he can.
He's been around for a while now. I remember that. He came back had a really good year. I think the track was drafted the year before him, and sort of they'll go in like shoulder to shoulder. And I reckon the guy was in front of him early. The try doesn't have this shot so far ahead of him in terms of development consistency.
Yeah, he had a year off because of his knee. So he did his knee in his first season, didn't even play, and then came on board. And it has taken a while. Like he was a forward, but then it was probably, I reckon, 4 years ago. He really, that 2018 season was the spark, and then it just sort of took off from there. You got to give some players can just do it from day one. Some players take a bit of time as well too, and some players they just don't get what they should get out of them. And Degoe's one of those ones that I reckon you'd love to have him, but you just I don't say hate, but get frustrated with like just we know you've got it, and we just wish you'd be a little bit more like this guy or a little bit more like this guy, and just dedicate yourself instead of.
Well, that's the big thing.
In dressing gowns.
You can pick what 6 or whatever he wants, and it's like you're one of the guys who really need to go to the next level. You know, it's not Jack Ginnivan, for example, was taken as a lower pick or rookie pick or whatever it was. Like you're a top 10 pick. You obviously have the talent. We need you to go to the next level. Not to just tease us with it, but to do it the whole season, be all Australian, you know. You're the one who has to carry the midfield into the next generation, not Pendlebury. He's not one who should still be doing it at 35. It needs to be you at 25, 26.
Yeah.
That's natural progression. But, it's going to be Nick Dacos. I mean, Nick Dacos will do it this year, and people will marvel at how precocious he is for his age and all that.
That's only one player, and that's the frustrating thing. And I think that's the message from now is like, but that's only one player. Like, who else is going to step up?
I mean, I'll be fair again.
That's 2. You need probably about 6.
Stand
up because bottom, your top players are going to get you through the regular season, but when it comes to finals, it's your bottom 6 that is the difference.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to put Chris had the sort of ceiling that he's shown. So I'm not even credit for getting where he's got him because I never thought he had that in him.
Yep.
But they really need a lot more in that midfield. That midfield looks really patchwork at times. There are times, where just with the ruck, not winning the ruck, and then the midfield not winning the ball, it was just walked out way too easily. And the goalie's he should be the prime candidate, the identifier. And as far as Nick Dacos goes, at 18, 19, he shouldn't be the one being asked to carry that responsibility.
Yeah.
It should be those guys in their 20s.
And it's a big responsibility because if you have a look at your draw, you've got the 8th hardest draw this year, completely different to what you had in the previous season. You play the Crows twice, you play Brisbane twice, you play Carlton twice, Essendon twice, Geelong twice, and Port Adelaide twice as well too. That's not, especially when you look at Brisbane, Carlton, Geelong, who they're thinking are all top 4 teams. That's a bit ugly. And then your first 4 are Geelong away, Port at home, Richmond at home, and Brisbane away.
And Brisbane's really good example, as you say, because again, like I was talking about, where's the improvement come from? And they've picked up Dunkley and who was the other guy?
Ashcroft.
Yeah, they pick up players where you go, there's where the improvement's coming from, and mistake leaving. So, but I'm not casting dispersions of mistake because you look at that one side where Daniel didn't play and they actually looked a lot better.
No,
when they didn't have the free balls up.
And her focused. Exactly. Yeah. And that just gave Hipwood a bit more room to move as well too.
Yeah. So if they should have been looking at it going, well, maybe let's try this next year without one of these guys here, which is going to be a mistake. But anyway, looking at that, the talent they've brought in who's plug and play. Dunkley's immediately going to improve that midfield. Collingwood, you got these guys who might come up really well. Like I said, I really have hopes on Hill. Mitchell should do it. But then again, the other thing is the synergy of how well they play together in terms of chemistry. You can bring players and sometimes it's don't quit.
Yep. Yeah, no, Mitchell I think will be the one for us. And that's a sad thing to say for a bloke coming at 30. But one of our deficiencies was clearances, and he'll have an immediate impact there.
Definitely. He could get Hey, is Barry available? Maybe get 2 for the price of 1. Hey, listen, gentlemen, it's
Very 5 games on it, so
you should have got him father-son. Not bad. He could play too, Barry Mitchell. Wasn't he the first $1 million man?
Yeah, he was.
He was the first $1 million man when he got that big one from Carlton.
Yeah, Carlton wanted to get him. We took him in the draft just to fight Carlton, and then we couldn't fit him in the side. Then he went to Carlton anyway. So
it's a Carlton anyway. A lot more for it. All right, gentlemen, it's time for the ski double up. I call it the Liz Smiley ski double up. So, teams who you can see on the rise this year, teams you can see on the slide this year. Who comes to mind? And if you want to throw your own team in there, be as biased as you want or not biased as you want.
I don't see him as releasing him off the slide because he getting smashed that much in the grand final can be psychologically damaging.
Yep. Yeah, Sydney was the first one that sprung to my mind as well.
Yeah.
I think we'll go backwards, but only by a couple of things, I think. So you wouldn't probably consider that a slide, just a step backwards.
Yep.
Melbourne should improve, aren't they? When she's skyrocket top. Yeah, forget it, America.
It's okay. It's okay. You didn't say who you are.
I don't think you come back from straight set X's, do you?
No, you don't.
That's it. You just put a line through everything.
We got a redhead as a midfield.
Have they started the rebuild now?
Hey, leave my best mate Clayton Oliver alone. The Ginger Ninja. You'd love him, wouldn't you, Pies?
Yeah, easy. We've paid $4 million for 24 years.
So, Sydney going down.
Sydney going down.
Pies going down. Anyone else?
Five only down a spot or 2. Christian, I think, the other Bulldogs are finished. Let's get rid of them. No Dunkley. Brisbane made a hard one to read. They got some really good. They just treading water. You would have thought they would be a lot more powerful. You would have thought a few years ago.
Yeah, they're in the bag. You never know what you're going to get.
They are the Forrest Gumps, aren't they? Because you watch the way they play in finals, and it's just almost like you had it on toast. When they had the finals up in Brisbane a couple of years, you thought they were going to dominate it, and it's just something that you look at them and go, I know you got 99% of it, but I just still don't. There's a trust factor, I think, with them at the moment, especially around their forward line with Darcy, Danaher and Hipwood. There's too much reliance on Cameron. If Cameron doesn't kick a bag, it makes it difficult. Really difficult. So even though they got all those mid half forwards, etc., there's just something about them. But you can't fault them for their recruiting this year. And also remember, they also picked up Pierce Hanley as well, which people have been forgetting about. Any of the lower teams, the bottom 8, you see bottom part of the ladder, you can see sort of making a climb this year or going really backwards.
Mate, they were up to 17, so that would be good for them.
Yep.
I think Essendon will. Essendon's here. They'll annoy if you.
It's not in Carlton. I mean, Carlton, in fact, surely Carlton, they just have to kick it to play, and that should be your whole game plan. The Carlton one's so interesting because, like I said, I don't believe in Boss's game plan, which is just crash packs and win the ball. With that side, with that personnel, you'd think they should. If they had McRae as coach, I think they would have flag last year. The quick direct game.
They had to make finals, remember, first. They still had to make finals. They had that issue first of getting to that top 8.
Yeah. One other thing, if they had McRae as a coach, I think they would have made it easy. It's just not only the game style, new system, players they have. Outside of the midfield, just cracking the pack. Carlton Essendon are probably 2 you think they'd leap up. Richmond's actually an interesting one. That might actually skyrocket with Granto and Hop. Was it Hopper?
Yeah.
All right. But who else is that? Port Adelaide, they'll sink further. They're just incompetent. How long's Hinkley been? He's been here since about 1964. And he wants to
well, if you listen to my co-host with the most, Jamie the J-Dog Wallis, he can't wait for the day that Hinkley leaves.
Yeah. He's been across some of the convict ships, Hinkley. Been around that long.
Yep. He was with Captain Cook.
Oh, I'm not angry. You think he would be angry if you're coach at Port.
Yeah.
That's a prerequisite.
Yeah, but
who's your premier? You got a premier for me? Who's going to take it out?
Matthew Guy. No, sorry.
No, one that might actually win something. not actually go backwards.
I went backwards. I think it's pretty hard to go backwards from the bottom.
Depending on what the rest of the competition decide to do, it'd be hard to not look at Geelong and think they could almost go back to back.
Yep.
Because they just have such a few injuries that certainly bring them back. But,
I had a really an injury run there. Injury run was pretty good last year. So I think, what do they say? 100% is hard work, and then everything else after that is luck. They had luck on their side pretty much, but they were also smart the way that they rested players throughout the year. So I think there's going to be a lot of clubs who look at that and go, that's something that we should do as well. But yeah, that is a common theme with Geelong. Anyone else that you sort of got your eyes on?
No, that will be interesting with Grundy there. I mean, the forward line's the issue. I mean, it was last year. Ben Brown was exposed a little bit too easy. McDonald was a big loss. So maybe instead of Grundy, you should have went after Chris Dawes again or someone like that.
Hey, leave Dawsey alone.
I like Dawsey. He's good. Yeah, I mean, they're an interesting one. It's who else is it? I would say Brisbane, but then they would disappoint me.
I'll throw them in there.
You can probably say Brisbane will probably make a spread.
Yeah. And look, that's been a common theme. Brisbane's been a common theme. I actually did have someone say the biggest prediction so far, if you haven't heard it, listen to it. Tommy Roker said Gold Coast is going to make top 4.
Okay.
But then he went through the reasonings behind it, and he actually has a bit of sustainability to it as well too, because they were pretty good last year, and they get Ben King in as well.
I mean, you can't be terribly sure. At some point, they've got to do something.
You're right. At some point, they've got to do something as well too. At some point, you guys are going to be doing something this year as well too. The Collingwood Rant. What do you got in store for your listeners this year? Was it when you guys kick off? When you get stuck into it? What's the structure of your show? How many times a week?
Well, it's weekly. We haven't actually worked out, but we're going to start up. We keep thinking, well, we should do some sort of preview thing. Yeah. Does this qualify?
You could just take this one. Just
taking some rebranding.
Just rebrand it. Go for it.
We had all these guest stars, like high-profile guest stars, lined up a couple of years ago, and then they just all got left over by lockdown. So we're trying to get some of those ones back. It was like a really star-studded line. I'm like, this would be cool. And they just all went. I think like the week before the start, we went back into lockdown 5 or something. So hopefully going to get a few of them in pre-season. Otherwise, you just hear us talking, the usual random rubbish, and drinking beer. And maybe we'll be a bit comedy-centric this year.
Gentlemen, you love your club. And that's as simple as it gets. You do this because you love your club.
4 stars to search on us.
You might not love the playing group or the coaching group, but you love the Collingwood Football Club. So let's just put that in.
I love the coach and the playing group.
Just may not like the results, but that's all right. Gentlemen, you are absolute superstars. I was just saying, listen, this is the 3rd year that we've caught up. And it means a hell of a lot to me because a lot of the casters that I'm doing our previews with this year, it is our 3rd year. So it's just that relationship that we have where we can just reach out and go, gents, would you like to be part of it again? And they just go, yep, love it, book it in as well too. So I can't thank you guys enough because the success that we have, especially when it comes to the Collingwood supporter group, it has a lot to do with you as well too. So Sly and Spook from the Collingwood Rant, I have one quick question for you. And it's simply this. Gentlemen, how do you want your footy?
Lace out.
Lace out, please.
You can have it lace out. And Collingwood supporters, that is your 2023 pre-season review. I've actually got you guys sitting in the top 8, but just outside the top 4.
I've got us in the top 16, so I'm pretty confident.
That's a good start. As long as it's above Essendon and maybe North, you're in a good spot. Have a great week, listeners, and enjoy footy. Gentlemen, you two are superstars.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to our latest episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on iTunes. I'm your host, Chris Pepper, and with Jamie Wallis, we give you your footy how you want it.
Ice out.